Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing which is better out of Death Note and Code Geass using arguments made by Reddit users. Let's go. Death Note is much more tonally consistent than Code, which has an overabundance of badly executed mode whiplash. One episode is literally just Lelouch chasing a cat, after a fairly serious episode, and gratuitous fanservice. Missa threw in quite a bit of that. As a counterpoint, I'd say that Code actually connected the light-hearted school life to the gritty rebellion rather well. The characters within the school are often impacted by the war going on outside. Technically, Death Note is executed way better than Code. Code has more plot holes than Death Note. Death Note went downhill after episode 25. While Code was enjoyable throughout the series, Code has one of the best endings in all anime, and Code hits harder than Death Note. Quality-wise, Death Note better than Code. Enjoyment plus void effect, Code better than Death Note. While I found Code to be more entertaining, Death Note's writing is far superior to that of Code. The plot in Death Note and the way the characters outsmart each other is well thought out in a coherent and genius manner. Code, on the other hand, will often make it seem like Lelouch is doing something smart or outstanding, but in reality, what's being done either doesn't make much sense, or isn't really explained in detail. It's just stated to the viewers that he did something smart, or outsmarted his opponent. Death Note tighter story, better main character, characters, themes, mind games, and overall better writing. Also, DN has a better conclusion in my opinion, because of how it was foreshadowed, aligned with the themes and the moral of the story. Code is overhyped, and more of rule of cool than anything. It tries to portray Lelouch as smart, but it's really everyone being dumbed down, and getting hit by his Geass. The mind games between Light and L is a brilliant cat and mouse showcase, whereas the strategies used in Code amount to go to X coordinate, while never really explaining to the viewer in detail. The shoehorned school element and harem is unnecessary fanservice that creates tonal whiplash with the rest of the story. A lot of the characters are either unnecessary or poorly written. For instance, Suzaku is an inconsistent mess. Art 2 is a more of convoluted mess and drop in quality for me than the second part of Death Note 2. Death Note, easily. I dropped Code halfway through Art 2, and it was a long slog before that. A good mind games show should have an entertaining MC. Light certainty fits the bill, while Lelouch only managed to annoy me. Well, in terms of protagonist, Lelouch is better, because one, he actually accomplished his goal to make a better world for his sister, while Light died trying to make it better by killing every criminal, and two, in terms of strategy, Lelouch planned out every move everyone makes, and I'm talking about the last part of the show where he faked a recording and got his brother under his Geass, but Light did erase his memories for a brief period and got them back as he planned. But Lelouch is better. I love both, and have rewatched both, but I think Death Note has the best moral complexity, and Code has the best ending I've seen in anime. But I honestly think Death Note is more fun to watch, while the Code characters are more relatable, and have interesting relationships. I'd say Death Note is far clearer as laying out the deduction process and reasoning, provides a better understanding of the stakes, and conveys well the thoughts and tension of the people involved, while Code had a lot more scenes of Lelouch winning and letting the audience just buy he's a very good strategist. And yes, Code has a very round ending, but that doesn't excuse all the bullshit in between. I don't think either did a fantastic job on this regard, but Death Note was definitely more competent in executing the mind games. Death Note also keeps its supernatural element more focused and constrained within a rules defined at the very beginning, and doesn't involve elements or parties that aren't relevant. Code, try explaining the Sword of Akasha and the Ragnarok on simple terms. It's all over the place, especially for a show that already was juggling geopolitics, political ploys, mecha fights, militarism, high school drama, and different character arcs. Throwing needlessly confusing MacGuffins only distracts and alienates the audience. I'd say Code gives more interesting characters thought, giving inner conflicts, doubts, and contradictions to each member of the cast. So when a treason happens, or the power swifts, we have more reasons to care about both the consequences and the reasons behind that action. Death Note gives personality and vulnerabilities and goals to each character, but in the end of the day cares more about the conflict between the top players of the game, and how the situation is going to play out. For me, Code has probably the best drama. It puts the emphasis more on the bonds the characters share and how they evolve as they hurt each other to follow their ambitions. Whereas Death Note works better as a supernatural thriller relying on slowly building tension and Tetsuro Araki's adrenaline pumping outbursts. I've seen both around the same time, but I can't remember a lot about the events within Death Note, but I remember a lot of events within Code, even the whole orange fiasco. For only that reason I prefer Code over Death Note. Code has better conclusion than Death Note. Better MC as well. Death Note has the better antagonist and better mind games in general, although Code does have its fair share. I guess they are different genres at the end of the day. Code also has better waifus and mechas. You just can't beat that. Lol. In my opinion, Code is superior. I remember watching Death Note and being amazed by its deep plot and amazing build up and execution. Then I found Code, and I was utterly blown away by what I can only describe as pure intelligence work and amazing artistic detail. This show blew me away with its genius plot, amazing characters, except for Suzaku, and pinpoint animation and story. Almost everything about Code is flawless, and it has so many small details, sometimes deemed unnecessary, which makes the anime look so much more alive than any other, and yet it still manages to keep itself on the line by not getting too heavy or complicated. It holds that balance between a simple anime and one of those anime where you have no idea what the fuck is going on, and I think these are the reasons why Code is truly superior to Death Note and all those other intelligent anime. Here's why I prefer Death Note. For the most part, things actually make logical sense in Death Note. You see the plans being prepared beforehand etc. Whereas in Code there's just a bunch of random ass pulls. Code's random fanservice that feels out of place. For instance, there will be a heavy political scene, but the camera focuses on someone's ass for some reason. Random things are thrown in Code that never get any proper explanation. For instance, what even happened in C's world? It just seemed like nonsense. I dislike a lot of the characters in Code. Suzaku only redeemed himself towards the end. Before that he was an annoying hypocritical piece of shit, and Nina sucks as well. Death Note has some terrible characters too, such as Matsuda. I preferred the villain in Death Note. I could actually understand Light's point of view at the start, and he was an entertaining villain. Far more interesting than Charles and Skneasel. What I do prefer in Code is the ending. Code had the best ending in any anime in my opinion. Death Note's ending was okay but nothing special. Code also had some nice humor from time to time, whereas Death Note barely had any humor, although it's not really that type of show. Code had far better female lead characters. CC is far better than Miss Ramane, and it's not even close. Code have more interesting characters, the girls are not dumb and have agency, and the protagonist, Lelouch, is a bit more likable, but I dislike the mecha setting, so I prefer Death Note in general. People keep comparing DN to CG and Light to Lelouch, but I just don't see it. The series are different genres and plots. Lelouch hasn't demonstrated anything that makes me think he's equal to Light in terms of intelligence, despite the Geass being a more powerful tool than the Death Note. That's all the arguments. As a whole I would say Death Note is the winner, but everyone has their own opinion and taste. Let me know which one you think is better in the comments. If you enjoyed, subscribe and leave a comment of the next 2 animes you want to see. Peace.